Alright, let's get started with the squat matrix. We're going to go in a standard squat position. Notice that my legs are going to be a little wider than shoulder width apart. My hands are just kind of bending with my knees here. We're going to go for 5, 5, 5, right? So we're going to do 5 reps into 5 different positions, right? And we'll do that and we'll cycle through it, right? So now we're wide. We go narrow. So notice that we're changing foot positions, but still maintaining the fundamental pattern of a squat, okay? We get stagger stance. Notice that I did not go into a lunge stance. So when you stagger stance, you're about toe distance, right? So you just measure it right on the toe here and then just move out, okay? So we're here and you're squatting on that back leg. When you're squatting, you should be able to lift that front leg up, okay? So again, still with the squat pattern. And then you do the same thing on the other side. You're here, line yourself up, and you're just squatting through. Notice that we can actually tweak it now. So that was 5 positions. Now we can tweak our feet. Our feet were neutral. Now we get toe out. Let's toe out. Continue. We're about neutral stance here. 1, 2. The idea with this, we're getting a lot of variety within the hip joint itself as we're squatting. Let's go wide. Great way to warm up the tissues of the legs before any kind of activity. And we're just assessing how we feel, how our legs are going to load during an activity in each foot position. 4 and then 5. Same thing, when we stagger, we're just going to position our foot just forward, right? We're just doing a slight step forward and putting most of that weight back, right? 1. Very hip dominant, so I'm reaching back with my hips and sitting back onto that back leg. Same thing on the right side. Keeping the knees nice and wide. Nice stable base for stability when you're dropping down into that squat. Finally, we go right into slightly toed in. Okay? Go back to neutral, about shoulder width apart. Slightly toed in. You're not going to be able to go as deep, and that's totally fine. Because we're closing in that joint in the hip socket. And we're going to go wide. And the idea here is to, again, molding the hip joint. A lot of movement there, but just using our foot tweaks, we're able to get a little bit more stress, a little bit more length out of those joints. It's a great warm-up. Get the blood to flow in those legs. And then we stagger stance. Still slightly toed in here, coming through. One more, and now we're gonna switch legs. And to finish up the squat matrix. There you go. So that completes it. You can add your hands as well, right? As you squat down, you take 5-pound dumbbells and do reaches, right? So you could do a squat into a press. You could take a cable behind you. You squat 2 cables like this and press at 45-degree angle. So you could do squats here and press. We call these compound movements. You could pull. You could take a cable in front of you. You could pull into a squat, pull, and pull. Okay? So you can have a lot of fun just with the squat fundamental pattern. Okay? We're getting into the lunge series. So lunge, it's not that staggered step, but it's actually a longer step going into more of a single leg, okay? We're gonna work the clock, going forward, side, rotating, same side. Looks like this. Step forward, just load that leg, come back home. Step to the side, notice that I'm on a wall, this is this line here, I'm loading my hip, come back home. And then we rotate out, same side. I'm here, keeping that leg straight and loading into that hip. And rotating back. Okay, we're just gonna repeat it. We're here, forward, to the side, open. Okay, this is called a common lunge matrix. Stepping to the side. It's a great dynamic warm-up for any activity. Here, rotating out. We can step in the uncommon matrix, so we can step forward, but also pure plane going all the way back, loading that. Step to the side, pure plane crossover, load in the front, and then rotate out to to then rotate all the way in. And we're going to go over that for the pivot matrix. Again, left side's here, all the way back. Side lunge, crossover step, lunge that leg. Open, close. Okay? Again, that's transfer like basketball. Here, this step here, winding up in frisbee or lacrosse, you're doing these inside uncommon steps, right? They're very transferable to sports. Okay? We could play around with our arms for the lunge matrix. So we could lunge forward, take your hands, cross over that lunging foot, get more of a wind or rotation in that front. With this one, you can go a little faster just to get a little bit more rotation into that hip joint. Most of us tend to get stiff and we get stuck in this externally rotated hips. We have no differentiation between those hips as we walk. So this actually helps us to get as much internal rotation to turn on the good old glutes, right? We're taking our hands, rotating through, rotating through. I like to kind of jump into it, so I'll show you a variation. You can hop, come back, hop, come back in, hop in, come back home. Come forward. Notice that I'm upright, my back is not bending. Okay? So that would be considered the lunge matrix. Again, you take any kind of movement. Can you move it forward? Can you move it back? Can you move it to the side? What about the other side? Can you rotate in? Can you also rotate out? All these dimensions are going to give you a multiplanar approach for any kind of workout. Last one is going to be a pivot matrix. Very similar, but we're going to really just focus on the hip joint. Okay? So we talk about hip hinge. Hinging at the hip is the first movement you have to learn to be able to deadlift appropriately. Right? It's that glute bridge, but you're standing up. Okay? So now we're going to apply that and three-dimensionalize that movement. Same position, so I'm going to step forward, right? So you're just stepping forward just like the squat matrix, not too far because that becomes a lunge. From here, we do a hip hinge. Maybe step to the side. See here? Hinge, you should feel this open up. Step back, and you should feel the front leg open up. All right, there's that pure plane motion. Step to the side, this just becomes a wide hip hinge, right? And then you cross over, slightly forward, hinging in this position. Come back home. We can rotate out, which basically just turns, it's a foot turned out hip hinge. And then rotating in, hinging. You'll feel that on the front leg. Okay? Same thing on the other side. So we're here, stepping, hinging in the back, stepping backwards, hinging, outside, which is just a wide hinge, crossover step, hinge, rotate out, hinge, and rotate in for a hinge. Again, my back is not doing anything, so you're not doing this. Right? You're not going in and bending at the spine. We don't want to see any of that. It's here. You're standing nice and tall and hinging all of that weight back towards the glutes and the hamstrings to get that stretch. Okay? Last application, using the chops and the lifts again. So you can hinge, you could chop down and raise your hands back up, right? Get that extra momentum, come back forward. Step, come through, here. Crossover step, get the hands down to help load those hamstrings to help you lift up. This is just like jumping, right? It's the same mechanics. Opening that tissue here, still upright on my spine, rotating in, coming back home. Rotating forward on the other leg, coming back home, stepping back, to the side, hinging, hinging, rotate, hinge, and then coming down and hinging back to center. Okay? Good little series. We just went over 3 of the fundamental patterns of movement for the lower extremities. That's the squat, the lunge, and the bend or the hip hinge. Okay? Do those before any kind of activity, and you're going to ensure proper mechanics in the hip, the knee, and the ankle. You'll be nice and warm, and you'll just get a good cardiovascular warm-up for any activity. Give that a shot.